Hey guys, CreamCrazy here. Welcome to Wrestling Rant 79. I apologise for not being able to get the Raw and SmackDown reviews to you this week. Distractions and university work primarily has enabled me to not really get these reviews to the standard I want them to be. And honestly, I do have a very high standard on how I want my videos done, so unfortunately they're not going to happen this week. However, I've got an impromptu rant set up here. This is the 79th of which. Look on your screen right now, you see Daniel Bryan and The Big Show. A lot of people have been up in arms this week over WWE's idea to put The Big Show in the main event spot of this entire feud because they believe that because Daniel Bryan is a smaller performer, people weren't buying into it. And they want to see larger-than-life characters. And I'm doing this video today to really look at what the hell WWE is thinking and whether they are actually doing what we want. Because, of course, we as an audience keep them alive. We are the people who buy their products, we buy their tickets, we buy their pay-per-views, we support them, whether it's negative in most cases, or really positive in some cases, or even on the fence all the times, like I am, in any regard. And I honestly cannot believe that WWE have gone into an archaic idea that the bigger you are, the bigger you're going to sell. I mean, I'm not really negative usually when it comes to these kind of things. I try and be as impartial as I can, as you know. But I'm looking at this thinking, Daniel Bryan has been over since this yes-no thing blew up. Since last year's WrestleMania, he has been one of the names on fans' lips. Doesn't really matter if you're casual, a previous fan of Generation who's recently picked up on things, he's been a person on people's lips. And Daniel Bryan has gotten people excited. His matches do damn well at providing good story. He's being able to exhibit more emotion in what he does than most WWE guys do in their promos. And honestly, he's one of the reasons why going into SummerSlam we were all hyped as hell for it. Because we wanted to see this guy overturn this John Cena conglomerate, and then in the preceding months, overturn this giant corporation conglomerate that had suddenly sprung up. You see, with Daniel Bryan, we can look at the story, we can look at the guy and go, we want to see you win. Because we know, without our support, you won't be able to do it. And that idea kind of gives that construct of a narrative that Daniel Bryan is someone we can get behind because he is relatable to us. He's a guy who is small, like most people. A person who is, got massive facial hair like some people would do, especially now going into Movember, they would do here. He's a person who is incredibly skilled at what they do and being rewarded for it, just like we would expect to in real life. Big Show, however, on the opposite end, is not. And this is the problem that WWE, I've realised, have had with this. Big Show got fired. For obvious reasons, because he was basically Stephanie McMahon's pet for about 4 weeks until the firing occurred. Then what happens with him? He appears out of nowhere with full Titantron and full everything, and he gets through without being arrested, and then one random piece of illegitimate restraining orders stops him from coming in, and he doesn't get arrested, and then he's back in, and he's main eventing. Big Show is a person who, in any situation, while he may be larger than life, does not replicate the fan. He is not a typical person watching. And WWE have always had the philosophy that if they're larger and much more bigger than a normal person, people will be amazed. Almost like pro wrestling could have been, and probably was, back in the early part of the 20th century, when people were actually going to see these big, giant, complete muscled freakazoids challenge each other to see who could beat each other up for the most money. You know, that's the thing they think this is about. They think that we're still as naive as that we are looking at these people and thinking we need the spectacle. The problem is, that's not what the spectacle lies. The spectacle lies in the drama that's created, rather than the actual figure. Now that's the thing. For many years we've looked at whoever is larger than life, or can superhero back from the bricks of doom. We've looked at the personality of a performer and what they can do and what story they can tell and what gives us that through smaller people who are relatable. The reason why people hated the shit out of Miz was not only because he was a champion who many seen did not deserve it, it's because he was resembling a person like you and me. He was a person who could be that complete, utter douche who is making your life a living hell. And that is what made him such a successful heel and such a successful champion, despite what his record in matches would have done. And honestly, Big Show is a person who we look at and go, if he was given the right amount of rage and was not restrained in what he could do in this storyline, he could have just flattened a lot of them. I mean, sure, he'd have a bit of trouble getting through Kane, but then again, we've seen him beat Kane before. It's not that difficult when you've got two big guys against each other to see who, thanks to notions of endurance and resiliency, who the hell is the weaker guy. Does WWE really think that we are simple-minded people? If you look at the reviews some people do on YouTube and blogs and actual websites of journalistic integrity or do articles on their own things, you know that some fans are not. They're not simple-minded. They think a ton on this. They can see that Big Show is big and he's massive and he's just leeching off the yes, yes, yes chants because that's what Daniel Bryan put there in the first place. Honestly, honest to God, Big Show does not represent the fan and what the fan wants. The fan wants to see the wrestling. The fans want to see the drama. And while this Big Show storyline is giving us the drama, it is giving us a sense of predictability. That, well, Randy Orton isn't too big himself. What's he doing in the main event? If he's only a little bit taller and a little bit beefier than Daniel Bryan, then why the hell is he there? If he's not some giant 6'8", 300-pounder like Luke Harper or Bray Wyatt or Carly or whoever the hell is higher and bigger than that. You see, years ago we could suspend our disbelief into saying, oh, this is what we're here for. But we as an audience don't want that. We like realism. And I've said this countless times before, that if we are in a position to say what realism stands for and stand up for it, that's the reason why sport is such a prevalent thing in our lives, because of its realism. Okay, sure, there is a separatist idea that, of course, those footballers, or those American footballers, or those baseball players, or those racing drivers have massive salaries in some cases, and they have really quite privileged lives. And you think, oh, that technically means, oh, they can't relate to us, surely. But then you look at the grassroots level of where the sports come from, and then how far it can rise to the top, and the stories of those people from going from where they are at the young age, practicing through that sport to make it. That's what makes sport interesting. And that should be the same thing that makes WWE and wrestling interesting. In fact, to be honest with you, it does. Going from territory to territory, watching people, regardless of their size, their creed, their gender, their ethnicity, or any other preference, to see them become something. That's the story that Daniel Bryan has had since the moment he arrived. And honestly, it has worked to a T in making him a bankable star that people care about. Okay, I would say it's a bit, at the moment, ridiculous to even say that he is bankable. Triple H doesn't seem to think so. Of course, he thinks that Daniel Bryan was the reason, due to his stature, why SummerSlam did worse than he thought. No, the reason why it did a little bit bad is because the card wasn't really completely stacked, despite having Lesnar back for it. I mean, honestly, it actually refers back to my previous pay-per-view, my previous rant last time. I was saying that why WWE undermine their pay-per-views by not advertising enough and making us give a shit. That refers to why. They weren't advertising it enough. So, they can only blame themselves for really bad buy rates and trying to capture people's imaginations. If the crowd are going mental for Daniel Bryan, usually that's an indication to push the shit out of it. Because that's usually what I would do. That's what anyone would do in the position that they're in. Big Show only really gets cheers because he's in cahoots with Daniel Bryan up until last week. That's the problem. You know, Daniel Bryan got the yes, yes, yes chants going. You can't see Big Show just doing them just to know that it gets the fans going off their feet. There's no connection with that with him. There's no understanding of why Big Show is there, apart from the fact that he was fired and, like Cody Rhodes, had to claw his way back in somehow. And while Cody Rhodes' one was a real emotional situation, and we embraced Cody Rhodes' firing by Triple H and got behind him and made him and Goldust come in and show everyone else why they should have been pushed a long time ago in either respect. To see them become tag team champions, even with Big Show's help in the case that it happened, was a success. The tag team division now is being so focused on because people give a crap about who's at the top of it. There's going to be a massive surge in tag team wrestling on WWE's product because of it, and that is because they listened to the fans. They cared enough about Cody Rhodes. They cared when Goldust tried to get his job back and then didn't. You then look at them both coming back in, clawing their way in, and then making the fans emotively get behind them. With Big Show, the problem with what they did with him was that he was continuously on his knees, crying, and then one minute he's confident, and then immediately gets himself fired, keeps returning, and then comes back with everything back to normal with no real emotion and immersion into it, because he was too disruptive in the storyline build-up. He hadn't stayed away for so long, and like Cody had done something, like put a stipulation on a match where he could fight someone, like say Roman Reigns or whoever it may be in the Shield, and say, okay, fight this guy on this pay-per-view, say this upcoming pay-per-view at Survivor Series, and we'll give you your job back. And then once they do that, they can have this Big Show, Randy Orton storyline, or then Big Show Triple H, or whatever they want to do. Because then once Big Show has gained the trust of the support from the fans, he then gets the ability to rise up further. And WWE just haven't seen that. They haven't seen that just giving Big Show his job back because he continuously throws a lawsuit in front of his face in Triple H's face that people really don't think even exists in the first place. It seems too unbelievable to actually get behind the Big Show. And the only reason we're doing it is because we know that Triple H, Stephanie, and all the rest are dicks. And that's the reason why we're booing them. The only reason why we are giving Big Show the place that he is at the minute is because the whole entire storyline is surrounded by these heels who are easy to hate. And it's not because Daniel Bryan's size had nothing to do with it. Daniel Bryan's size had nothing to do with low buy rates. We were into this guy going against Triple H. We wanted every single week to see him win. And when he did, we were on our feet. They didn't give us the opportunity to actually embrace Daniel Bryan's victory. It was kept being pulled away from us because WWE were almost toying, saying, "You want this guy to win? That's not our plan. We're gonna give something else." And that's the problem. WWE are thinking too far in the past that a person like Daniel Bryan should be wrestling mid-card matches. No, they shouldn't. This is the thing. You shouldn't look at someone and go, "Oh, they're bankable because they're big. They're big guys, and people will love watching big guys wrestle." This is not the bloody 80s. This is not the mid-90s. This is different completely. I've said this countless times before, everyone. This is not that time. This is a different era. And WWE have fallen in this category by continuously trying to do the same business plans that apparently worked for them in the past without taking risks. They took the risk of putting Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit on the top. And okay, sure, pay-per-view buy rates may not have been the best they've ever been, but the fan reception for them was so high because people respected the crap out of them. And they respected that these were wrestlers who they could relate to. They were there doing well, not because of their size. The WWE, in this regard, by putting Big Show in the main event, instead of a person like Daniel Bryan, is almost like saying Kevin Nash managed to get into their heads, saying that little guys destroyed the business, the buy rates have been going down due to it. Honestly, I never bought that. I don't understand why bigger means better in this case. Why is bigger better in professional wrestling? I don't know. I don't really care. I just want to see a good wrestler who is popular, over, and doing what he needs to do, get what he deserves. And to see the audience love Daniel Bryan and not get the same respect back from WWE with their ridiculous booking decisions is baffling. Honestly, Big Show, you're not going to win at Survivor Series. We can pretty much guarantee. So honestly, just like Daniel Bryan, we're wondering what is the point. What is the point of even putting Big Show in this situation when, one, we don't know what the hell caused him to be so happy about in the first place upon firing. Two, we don't have any idea what the hell is going on. I know the ending of this past week's Raw was a complete mess. We didn't know what was going on. The commercial didn't help either. The fact of the matter is, it all highlighted the idea that if the WWE do something like this, which is shown from the fan reception, if the fan reception was good when Daniel Bryan was getting his shot, people were happy. The casuals were happy, the smarks were happy, the journalists were happy, the whole locker room was happy. But then the minute you put Big Show in a big situation like this, the fans turn on it. Everyone turns on it. Hell, even I have. I mean, I'm still going to give Big Show a chance in the next couple of weeks to explain to us what the fuck's going on and give us a reason why we should support him. Because looking at Big Show, looking at Randy Orton, Big Show could completely squash Orton in the right scenario. And that makes this entire idea that bigger is better in a storyline like this, where you've got an oppressive regime on top of them, look so unbelievable. It made it look so good because Bryan was so small. I know I'm saying, oh, big means better or small means better, and I'm saying at the moment that small means better in this case. But honestly, I'm just standing up for the little guy like most people will have to in their lives. Again, another thing that we all have to relate to. We stand up for the small guy. We don't like the bigger guys because we resemble them as bullies. And the audience really sees that. That's why a lot of heels are people like Big Show. And for actually most of his early career in WWE, he was a heel for that same bloody reason. Monsters... I'll tell you this. I think Rico has told me this countless times. He has said to me that monsters do not make good faces. The fact that Carly came in and went to become a joke in the courts of eyes. Same with Brodus Clay. Same with Tensai. Hell, even though Kane's face turn in the last year was successful, it still proved problematic when you really look at the overall scope of things. Honestly, the only real monster who's managed to transfer to a face role and do it damn well was The Undertaker, and that's mostly because he turned into the American badass to do it. He became relatable with the audience and became not what the audience specifically wanted, but something they could easily connect with. And honestly, WWE has the idea that what the audience want and what the audience can connect with are completely separate things. They are conjoined. We want more realism in the modern day product. We're not a fan of this storytelling fairy tale. Larger is better. Giants can overcome the scorn of evil. Technically, that's not how most stories have gone. Mostly the giant is the one who's squashing people. Seeing a person like Hulk Hogan destroy someone smaller than him does nothing. Seeing a person like Ultimate Warrior do the same does nothing. Seeing people like Lex Luger do the same means nothing, because they are seen as a staple of power. Power and dominance by someone bigger over someone smaller makes us feel sorry for that smaller guy and makes the audience more inclined. And with the rise of smaller, average-sized wrestlers and the popularity of their boom throughout wrestling as a whole, not just WWE, but TNA, in the Indies, in the UK, and in America, and I would say even Japan for the most part, because Japan don't have larger-than-life characters a lot. This is the thing, guys. WWE doesn't understand what the fans want anymore. We want realism. We want smaller guys putting on fucking good matches and telling a damn good story too. Because a larger wrestler can't really do that unless they're given the right damn criteria to do so. And the only time they can is if they're heels, if they're bad guys, because that exertion of power is what counts. And do the fans want Big Show in the main event? It's pretty obvious. No. And honestly, if the buy rate for this upcoming pay-per-view is lower than Hell in a Cell, or if it's lower than Battleground, which I don't think it will be, but if it's lower than what WWE expects, honestly, I'm going to look at them and say, really? Was it right to push Big Show in this position? Probably not. Because this is the one problem I have to end this video today, guys. WWE has, in my eyes, never been the flag bearer for equality in their profession. This is one of those issues. Now, you could also pull up the claim of women's wrestling not being put on the same standard as the males, which fits into the gender ideal. When it comes to the physical ideal, Big Show, a person who has been in this company since 1999, who has had multiple world championships and multiple big feuds, to see a person like him against a guy, above a guy like Daniel Bryan, who has worked his arse off to make things happen and make the crowd invested, when the Big Show, all he's really done is just appear. I mean, WWE think, oh, he's a big name because he's a guy people recognize? That's not what the audience want. We want the person who gives us the most heart out there in that ring. We don't want a name we can recognize. I'm sure the casuals or the people who are phased away from wrestling wouldn't mind it. But people like me, people who watch this product and care about it a lot, don't feel that way. And we want to see the guy with the heart, the soul, in there. Because Big Show doesn't always look like the guy who does on screen. And just because he's taller, larger, has a bigger reputation, and has a bigger aura surrounding him because he's a giant 7-foot tall guy, should not mean that he is the guy that they think we want. Because they can't think what we want. We know what we want, and we are vocal about it. Why the hell do you think Daniel Bryan got to the point he is in now? We wanted Daniel Bryan. We got Daniel Bryan. We were lapping it all up. We were drinking it all in. And because it didn't generate the money they wanted, they think, oh, they want something else. Listen to the fan reaction Daniel Bryan gets every week. Look at this past week and look at the reaction that not just Bryan got when he came out, but look at the reaction CM Punk got. Those two get more reaction as an overall unanimous appraisal of their status than Big Show, John Cena, the Great Khali, anyone who is considered large, or at least larger than life. Those smaller guys get a bigger reception than they do. And if that is not an assumption of what this problem is, then I don't know what is, guys. Because the WWE are not listening to us. Just like Google when it comes to their comments. We need to take a stand and say to the WWE, this is your archetype paper cut mold from 20 damn years ago. We're not going to take it anymore. We want to make who we want on top, not who you want on top. Just because the money isn't good doesn't mean you can back out. There is something called a prolonged plan of action. And I've said this before, WWE booking WrestleMania around from Survivor Series onwards. I said that last year, and they've pretty much begun that. Hallelujah. But tonight, I'm completely saying here, guys, stand up for who you want on your product. Make it vocal, and make sure WWE hears you. Because for the love of God, this is a reason, and this is a statement that if WWE doesn't care about us, then why in some regard should we care about them in the long run if they're not even listening to who the hell's buying their tickets and buying the merch and cheering in those crowds, on their on their couches, on their beds, or wherever the hell they are watching? If they don't hear what we're saying and just shutting themselves off in that fantasy bubble, then what the hell is the point? What is the point of investing our time in this if they're not going to listen? And Big Show, that's a message to you. I'm going to see what you do. And if you can get us behind you and actually make it look interesting for a change, then I'll be happy to support you through this and retract my statement that a bigger guy can be what the audience wants in the modern day era. But unfortunately, if you don't, then it'll just reinforce my point. And guys, I really want to see what you think on this. Put your comments in the comment section. I will read them. I will see if I can reply. I'll try. But there is no guarantee. Anyway, guys, I hope you've all enjoyed this video, and again, I'll say again, what did you think? Click the like button down there, and click the subscribe button as well if you haven't. I really appreciate the support, guys. It is always good, and also, we're nearing 300 subscribers. Keep pushing, guys. The more love I get, the better it makes me feel, and the better these videos are going to get. Also, go to check out all my social media links. I've got a blog coming up on Tuesday next week, which will be my birthday. Hallelujah, that's going to be awesome. I mean, I'll be tired as hell after that day, but who really cares? Also, check out my Twitter, check out Facebook, check out everything there, and also add me on Skype if you want to. Just if you want to chat about wrestling with me, then all's good. Do that. Also, guys, go to CCVGP, because, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not heard, I put up an announcement regarding one of my 2 playthroughs I'm going to be starting in the next month or 2. You'll go click on the channel link in the description box below, and you'll be able to look at the video and see which playthrough I have picked. And that announcement was on Friday, so think about it. I've got another one coming up on Sunday. So all you need to do is click on the link, subscribe to that channel, and then you'll be able to get those videos. You don't need to worry about it at all. It's brilliant. Also, guys, the next video will be a Raw review. Tuesday night will be the Raw review. I'm not going to fail this time. I'm going to put my heart and bloody soul and get what I can from this. Sure, I'm going to be doing a video on my birthday while I'm immensely tired and out of it, but this is what I do, you know? Honestly, this is what I do. Guys, I have been Cream Crazy. You have been people listening. This has been Wrestling Rant 79 on whether WWE respects the audience and whether they really care about what we think in regard to the Big Show Daniel Bryan crap. And I will see you guys next time for that Raw review on Tuesday. Cheers.